Are irrelevant, Damon interrupted, because this isn't about feelings. It's about recognizing excellence when I see it. He turned to Maya. Miss Chun, would you step forward? Maya's legs trembled, but she obeyed. Damon pulled out a small box. Inside was a pendant, a golden wolf entwined with a phoenix rising from flames. This, he said, is the Order of the Phoenix. It's the highest honor I can bestow. It's been given only twice in the last century. He fastened it around Maya's neck. You've earned it 1,000 times over. The nobles erupted in protest. She's a commoner. This is inappropriate. Your Majesty, this goes too far. But Damon's voice cut through the noise. Anyone who questions this decision questions my judgment. And I promise you that's a challenge you don't want to make. His eyes swept the room deadly and cold. One by one, the nobles fell silent. Miss Chun is under my personal protection, Damon continued. Any harm that comes to her will be treated as an attack on the crown itself. Am I clear? Reluctant nods. Forced agreements. But Maya saw the hatred in their eyes. The king's protection was the only thing keeping her alive. The plot unfolds. That night, Lord Vance met with 5 other nobles in a secret chamber beneath the palace. They gathered around a table covered with maps and plans. He's gone mad, Lady Ashford said. He's risking everything for this girl. It's more than that, Lord Vance replied. He's in love with her, which means she has influence, real power. If she becomes queen, that cannot happen, another noble interrupted. Our families have ruled alongside the crown for generations. We won't be displaced by a scarred kitchen girl. He continued. So what do we do? Someone asked. Lord Vance smiled coldly. We remove the problem. But it has to look like an accident. If the king suspects murder, when love becomes a target, the palace woke to scandal. By breakfast, every noble knew. The king had been seen entering Maya's room late at night. The rumors spread like poison through water, twisting and growing with each retelling. He stayed for hours. She's bewitched him with dark magic. Those scars hide demonic marks. She's pregnant with his bastard. None of it was true, but truth didn't matter. Perception was everything in the royal court. Maya felt the shift immediately. When she walked to breakfast, servants glared. Guards whispered. Even Clara looked worried. What's happening? Maya asked. Clara pulled her aside. They know. About you and the king. People are saying terrible things. But nothing happened. Doesn't matter, Clara said urgently. You're in real danger now. The nobles see you as a threat to everything they believe in. A commoner loving the king? It breaks every rule they have. Maya's stomach twisted. What should I do? Disappear, Clara said bluntly. Take money and run. Before something terrible happens. But Maya thought about Damon's words last night. His kiss. The way he'd looked at her like she mattered. I'm not running, she said firmly. Not anymore. The royal announcement. King Damon called an emergency court assembly. Every noble was required to attend. Maya stood beside the throne, her chin high despite the hostile stares. When Damon spoke, his voice carried absolute authority. I've heard the rumors, he said, and I'm here to address them directly. The hall went silent. Maya Chun saved my daughter's life. For that alone, she deserves respect and honor. But she's shown me something else. She's shown me what true selflessness looks like. What courage without expectation of reward means. Lord Vance stood. Your Majesty, with all due respect, your personal feelings. You're too good for me, he corrected. But I'm selfish enough to want you anyway. When he kissed her, it was soft, gentle, like she was something precious that might break. Maya had never been kissed before. Never thought anyone would want to kiss someone who looked like her. But Damon kissed her like she was beautiful. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathing hard. Stay, he whispered against her forehead. Stay with me. Let me show you that you deserve every good thing I can give you. Maya wanted to say yes. Wanted it so desperately it hurt. But Clara's warning echoed in her mind. Watch your back. What if they try to hurt me again? She asked quietly. Damon's expression went hard. Then they'll answer to me. And I promise you, Maya, Anyone who threatens you will regret it. It should have sounded arrogant. But coming from the Alpha King, it sounded like a vow. Maya made her decision. I'll stay, she whispered. But not just for safety. I'll stay because I think I'm falling for you too. His smile could have lit the whole palace. What neither of them knew was that outside the door, a servant listened. One who was paid very well by Lord Vance to report everything the king did. And by morning, the whole palace would know that their king had fallen in love with a scarred commoner. The revenge plots would begin in earnest. But so would something else. A love story that would either save the kingdom or tear it apart. Your Majesty, Lord Vance started. I said I'll consider it, Damon snapped. This meeting is over. He stormed out, his mind in turmoil. As he walked toward Maya's room, he realized he was dreading telling her what had been proposed. Because somewhere in the last 2 days, the thought of her leaving had become unbearable. The confession. Maya was awake when he knocked. She opened the door, still dressed, her expression worried. What happened? Damon stepped inside, closing the door behind him. He looked exhausted. The council wants you gone, he said bluntly. They think you're a distraction. A threat to the stability of the court. Maya's heart sank. Then I should go. No. The word came out fierce. I don't want you to go. But if it's causing problems, let it cause problems, he said intensely. Let the whole court fall apart. I don't care. Maya stared at him. You don't mean that. Don't I? He moved closer. In 2 days you've reminded me what it feels like to care about something beyond duty. You've shown my daughter what kindness looks like. You've made this cold palace feel alive again. I'm just one person, Maya whispered. I'm nobody special. You're wrong. He cupped her scarred cheek gently, making her gasp. You're the most special person I've met in years. Damon. His name felt like a prayer on her lips. I know this is fast, he said. I know it's inappropriate. You're a guest in my home and I have all the power here. But I need you to know something. What? His thumb traced the line of her scar, tender and reverent. I'm falling for you, Maya-chan. Not despite these scars, but because of what they represent. Because every time I look at them, I see the moment you chose my daughter's life over your own safety. And I can't stop thinking about what kind of person does that. Tears filled Maya's eyes. I'm not good enough for you. The way his eyes darkened sent shivers down her spine. A knock at the door shattered the moment. Both of them stepped back quickly. Your Majesty, a guard's voice called. Urgent news. Damon composed himself and opened the door. The guard whispered something that made his face go pale. When? Damon demanded. Just now, sire. The council has called an emergency meeting. Damon turned to Maya. I have to go. But Clara will escort you back to your room. Stay there. Lock the door. I'll come check on you when this is finished. Before Maya could respond, he was gone. The council's ultimatum. What Maya didn't know was that the emergency meeting was about her. Lord Vance stood before the full council, his expression grave. Your Majesty, we must discuss the situation with Miss Chan. There's nothing to discuss, Damon said coldly. With respect, sire, there is. Another council member spoke up. Lady Ashford, a powerful noblewoman. Your attachment to this woman is causing unrest. The nobles are talking. They say she's bewitched you. That's ridiculous. Is it? Lord Vance interrupted. You've known her for less than 2 days, yet you've elevated her above centuries of tradition. You seat her beside your throne. You personally attend to her needs. People are starting to wonder if there's more to this than gratitude. Damon's fist slammed on the table. I am honoring a hero. Nothing more. Then prove it, Lady Ashford said. Send her away. Give her a generous reward and let her return to her life. If this is truly just about gratitude, you should have no problem letting her go. The words hit Damon like a physical blow. Let her go? Every instinct screamed against it. But he looked around the table and saw the suspicion on every face. They thought he was being manipulated. That he'd lost his objectivity. Maybe they were right. Maybe his feelings had grown beyond what was appropriate. I'll consider it, he said finally. It is, he interrupted. Everything that happens in this palace is my responsibility, including your safety. He paced, agitated. I'll double your guard. Anyone who threatens you will be arrested. Stop, Maya said softly. He paused, looking at her in surprise. You don't have to do all this, she continued. I saved Arya because it was the right thing to do, not because I wanted rewards or protection or any of this. She gestured around the luxurious study. I just wanted her to be safe. That's all I ever wanted. Damon stared at her. Then he crossed the room in 3 strides and took her hands in his. Don't you understand? He said urgently. You gave me back my daughter, my reason for living. There's nothing I wouldn't do to repay that. His hands were warm, strong. Maya's heart hammered. But I can't protect you if you don't let me, he continued. And I can't. I can't stand the thought of you being hurt again. Their faces were close. Too close. Maya could see gold flecks in his gray eyes. Why? She whispered. Why do you care so much? His thumb traced the edge of her scarred hand. Because you're the first person in 10 years who's shown me what true selflessness looks like. Because my daughter smiles again because of you. And because... He stopped, seeming to struggle with the words. Because... Maya prompted, her voice barely audible. Because when I look at you, he said slowly, I don't see scars. I see someone who understood what mattered when everyone else forgot. And that kind of person is rarer than any jewel in my treasury. Maya's breath caught. No one had ever looked at her like this. Like she was something precious instead of something broken. Your Majesty. Damon, he interrupted. When we're alone, call me Damon. It felt dangerous, intimate, everything Maya had been taught to avoid. But she whispered it anyway. Damon. But then a voice spoke up from the crowd. A young noblewoman with kind eyes. I think it's wonderful, she said clearly. Miss Chun is a hero. She should be treated as one. Others joined her. Not everyone, but enough. The room divided before Maya's eyes. Those who supported the king's decision and those who saw her as an intruder. Lord Vance bowed stiffly. As your Majesty wishes. But his eyes, when they landed on Maya, promised trouble. The first attack. That night, Maya was returning to her room when a hand grabbed her arm and yanked her into a darkened corridor. She opened her mouth to scream, but another hand covered it. 2 men in noble clothing loomed over her. Listen carefully, one hissed. You don't belong here. The king's infatuation will fade, and when it does, you'll have nothing but enemies. Leave now, the other growled. Disappear. Take whatever money you can steal and go. Because if you stay, things will get much worse for you. They shoved her against the wall and walked away, leaving Maya shaking. She tried to go back to her room, but her hands trembled so badly she couldn't work the door. Tears of frustration and fear burned her eyes. Miss Chun. She spun around. King Damon stood in the hallway, still dressed in his formal clothes from dinner. His expression darkened when he saw her face. What happened? Nothing, Your Majesty. He gently took her arm, examining a red mark where she'd been grabbed. His voice went cold and deadly. Who did this? I don't know their names, Maya admitted. They told me to leave. Damon's jaw clenched so hard she heard his teeth grind. Come with me. He led her to his private study, dismissed the guards and closed the door. Then he turned to her, and his expression was raw. I should have anticipated this, he said. I should have protected you better. This isn't your fault. I want everyone to know who you are, he explained. I want them to see what real courage looks like. But as they walked toward the throne room, Clara pulled Maya aside. Be careful, she whispered. The nobles won't like this. You're a commoner being elevated above them. They'll see you as a threat. I'm not trying to threaten anyone, Maya protested. Doesn't matter, Clara said sadly. Just watch your back. The throne room fell silent when Maya entered beside the king. Hundreds of eyes turned toward her. Nobles in silk and jewels. Advisors with cold, calculating faces. All staring at her scars. The whispers started immediately. That's her. So disfigured. Why would he bring her here? She must have some hold over him. King Damon heard them. His jaw tightened, but he said nothing. He led Maya to a seat beside the throne, a position of honor that made the whispers turn to gasps. "My lords and ladies," Damon's voice cut through the noise like a blade. "I present to you Maya-chan, the woman who saved my daughter's life at the cost of her own safety." Polite applause. Forced smiles. But Maya could feel the hostility radiating from the crowd. One man stepped forward. Lord Vance, the king's chief advisor. Tall, silver-haired with eyes like ice chips. "Your Majesty," he said smoothly, "while we're all grateful for Miss Chen's heroic act, is it appropriate to elevate her to such a position? She has no title, no training in court etiquette. Surely a financial reward would be more suitable." "Are you suggesting," Damon said dangerously, "that money can repay a life?" "Of course not, Your Majesty. But there are traditions. Standards. The court has functioned a certain way for centuries. And those traditions allowed my daughter's savior to suffer in anonymity for 6 months," Damon interrupted. "Perhaps it's time for change." The room erupted in murmurs. Maya wanted to disappear. But the scars remained, vivid against her neck and shoulder. A permanent reminder of what she'd sacrificed. The breakfast hall. King Damon waited in a private dining room. When Maya entered, he stood immediately. His storm-gray eyes swept over her, and something flickered in their depths. "You look." He paused, searching for words. "Beautiful." Maya's cheeks burned. "Your Majesty, I'm just—" "Stop," he said firmly but not unkindly. "You've spent 6 months believing you were nothing. I won't let you continue that lie." He pulled out a chair for her himself. As Maya sat, Princess Arya came running in, her nightgown flying behind her. "Angel!" she squealed, throwing herself at Maya. Maya caught her, surprised by the sudden affection. The princess hugged her tightly, and Maya's heart melted. "Good morning, Your Highness," Maya said softly. "You have to call me Arya," the princess insisted. "Angels don't use titles with the people they save." King Damon smiled, and it transformed his entire face. "She's been talking about you all night. I haven't seen her this happy since before the accident." The breakfast was strange. Maya, who usually ate stale bread alone, now dined on fresh fruit, warm pastries, and honey tea. The king asked her questions. About her life, her family, how she'd ended up in the village near the mountain. Maya told him about her parents, lost to illness when she was young. About working in the bakery, barely surviving. About the day everything changed. "I heard the crash," she said quietly, "and I just ran. I didn't think about it." "That's what makes it brave," Damon said. "Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's acting despite it." Their eyes met across the table, and something passed between them. Something that made Maya's breath catch. The court's reaction. The king insisted Maya attend the morning court session. The palace awakens to scandal. Dawn broke over the palace, but sleep had not come to many. By sunrise, every noble, every servant, every guard knew the story. The scarred kitchen worker was the woman the king had searched for. The mysterious savior of Princess Arya had been found. In the royal wing, Maya sat in a room 3 times the size of her cottage, wearing a silk nightgown someone had brought her. She couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the king's face. The pain in his eyes when he'd looked at her scars. A knock at the door made her jump. "Miss Chun." A woman's voice, gentle. "His Majesty has requested your presence for breakfast. I'm here to help you prepare." Maya opened the door to find 3 women waiting. They were dressed in the finest servant clothing, their expressions professional but not unkind. "We're to assist you," the eldest one said. Her name was Clara, and her eyes held warmth. "The king has ordered that you be treated as an honored guest." "I don't need." "Please," Clara interrupted softly. "Let us do this." His Majesty was very clear. Transformation. They led Maya to a bathing room filled with hot water and scented oils. As they helped her wash, Clara noticed how Maya flinched when they came near her scars. "They don't hurt anymore," Maya said quietly. I'm not used to people touching them." "They're part of your story," Clara said. "Part of what makes you brave." After the bath they brought clothes. Not servants' clothes. a dress of deep green silk that brought out the color in Maya's eyes. They tried to cover her scars with makeup, but Maya stopped them. "Don't," she said. "If the king wants to honor me, he honors all of me. Scars included." Clara smiled. Wise words. When Maya looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. The dress fit perfectly, highlighting the parts of her that hadn't been touched by fire. Her dark hair was braided with silver thread. She looked like someone who belonged in a palace. But as the king led her toward the palace, neither of them noticed the faces watching from the shadows. Nobles who saw this scarred commoner being honored by their king. Advisors who saw their carefully maintained social order being threatened. And in the darkest corner, one man smiled coldly. The king's favor would make Maya a target, and some people in the palace had no problem removing obstacles. The revenge Maya didn't know she'd need was already being planned. "You," he breathed. Maya couldn't speak, couldn't move. Arya grabbed her father's hand and pulled him forward. "It's her, Papa. It's my angel. She has the same eyes. I'd know them anywhere." Damon knelt slowly, bringing himself level with Maya. Up close, she could see the exhaustion in his face, the lines carved by 6 months of searching. "Is it true?" he asked, his voice rough. "Were you there that day?" Maya's throat closed. She managed a tiny nod. "Why?" he demanded. "Why didn't you come forward? I've been searching everywhere. Do you know what His voice broke. "You disappeared. You left us with no way to thank you. No way to repay what you did." "I didn't want thanks," Maya whispered. "I just wanted her to be safe." "At the cost of this?" He gestured to her scars, and the pain in his voice was raw. "You've been suffering while I had no way to help you. How long have you been working in my palace?" 3 weeks, Your Majesty." His jaw clenched. 3 weeks. "You've been here, hidden in my own home while I searched the kingdom." He stood abruptly, turning to his guards. "Find out who hired her. I want to know why no one recognized her. Why she's been working in the kitchens instead of—" He stopped, struggling for words. "Instead of what, Your Majesty?" an advisor dared to ask. Damon looked down at Maya, and something shifted in his expression. The cold king everyone feared melted away, leaving something raw and human. "Instead of being honored the way she deserves," he said quietly, "this woman saved my daughter's life. And from this moment on, her life changes." Maya's head spun. "Your Majesty, I don't need." "You need everything," he interrupted firmly. "And I need to make this right." He reached down and helped her to her feet. His hand was warm, strong, and when their eyes met, Maya saw something that terrified her more than the fire ever had. She saw a man who kept his promises, and who wouldn't rest until he'd repaid his debt. Maya froze. This was a mistake. She started to back away, but Arya stood up. "Your eyes," the princess said softly. "I remember your eyes." The guards looked confused. Maya shook her head, trying to signal the child to stop, but Arya walked right up to her. Small hands reached up and gently touched Maya's scarf. "You saved me," Arya whispered. "You're the angel." "No, Your Highness," Maya said quickly. "I'm just a kitchen worker." "You're confused." But Arya was already pulling at the scarf. Before Maya could stop her, it fell away, revealing the worst of her scars in the moonlight. The guards gasped. One actually stepped back. Arya didn't flinch. She stared at the twisted skin, the rough patches, the places where fire had rewritten flesh. Then she did something that broke Maya completely. She kissed Maya's scarred cheek. "Thank you," the princess whispered. "Thank you for saving me." Tears spilled down Maya's face. She couldn't stop them. "You should forget about me, princess. I'm nobody." "You're my angel," Arya insisted. Then she turned to the guards. "Get my father. Now." The guards scrambled. One ran toward the king's study. Maya's heart hammered. "Please, Your Highness. I don't want any trouble. I just work here." "You're the one he's been searching for," Arya said with absolute certainty. "You're her. And Papa needs to know." The king arrives. Heavy footsteps echoed across the courtyard. King Damon appeared, his expression thunderous. He'd been pulled from an important meeting. His advisors and guards flanked him. Arya, what's the meaning of? He stopped. His eyes found Maya, kneeling now with her scarred face fully visible in the lamplight. The piece of blue silk had fallen from her pocket when she'd knelt down. The king stared at that silk, at the specific shade of blue, the exact pattern of his daughter's dress from that day. His face went pale. 3 weeks into her employment, Maya saw him. She was carrying laundry through a back corridor when a group of nobles swept past. At the center walked a man who made everyone else look like shadows. Tall, broad-shouldered. His black hair touched his collar, and his eyes were the color of winter storms. Cold, gray, and infinitely deep. King Daemon Steel. Maya pressed herself against the wall, head bowed. But as he passed, something made him pause. He turned, and those storm-gray eyes swept over her. For one heartbeat, the world held its breath. His gaze caught on her scars. His expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Recognition? Impossible. He'd never seen her before. Your Majesty, one of his advisors said, breaking the moment. We're late for the council meeting. The king looked away. Maya released a breath she didn't know she was holding. He continued down the hall, but twice he glanced back. The princess's nightmares. That night, Maya was working in the lower kitchens when she heard crying. Not the normal sounds of the palace. This was a child sobbing, broken and terrified. She followed the sound to a small garden courtyard. Sitting on a stone bench, surrounded by guards who didn't know how to help, was Princess Arya. I want the angel, the little girl sobbed. I want the lady who saved me. Why can't Papa find her? Maya's heart cracked. She should leave. She had no business here. But her feet moved on their own. Your Highness, one guard said uncomfortably. Your father will come soon. Please. I want the angel. Arya screamed. Maya stepped into the light. The guards immediately moved to block her. Who are you? Get back to the kitchens. But Arya looked up. Her tear-stained face went still. Something in her eyes shifted, the same way it had 6 months ago when Maya pulled her from the fire. You. Arya whispered. Recognition. Hospital, then the royal family. By the time they thought to search, she was gone. He sent messengers to every village. He offered a reward that could buy a mansion. He commissioned paintings based on witness descriptions, but they were useless. No one had seen her face clearly through the smoke. All they knew was that she was young, brave, and somewhere in his kingdom, burned and suffering because she'd saved his child. It ate at him. Every night, his daughter asked about the angel who pulled me from the fire. Every night he had no answer. A desperate plan. 6 months after the accident, Maya made a decision. She couldn't live like this anymore. Hiding. Worthless. Forgotten. She heard the palace was hiring servants for the winter season. Kitchen workers, cleaners, positions nobody else wanted. She could do that. She could disappear into the background of palace life and at least earn enough to survive. When she arrived for the interview, the head housekeeper looked at her scarred face and sighed. You'll work in the lower kitchens. No contact with nobles. No appearing in public areas. Understood. Maya nodded. She was used to being invisible now. Life in the shadows. The palace was everything she'd imagined and nothing she'd hoped for. Marble halls gleamed with wealth she'd never touch. Nobles floated past in silk and jewels, laughing and carefree. And Maya scrubbed pots in a basement kitchen where no sunlight ever reached. The other servants were cruel in small ways. They forgot to save her dinner. They gave her the hardest tasks. They whispered loudly enough for her to hear. Cursed, probably. That's what burns like that mean. Maybe she was a criminal. Got branded. I heard she tried to seduce a nobleman and his wife threw lamp oil on her. Maya said nothing. She worked. She survived. She kept the piece of blue silk hidden under her pillow. The first glimpse. Maya's vision faded. The last thing she saw was the princess's face, safe in a guard's arms, looking back at her with wide, frightened eyes. Then darkness swallowed everything. 3 months later, Maya woke in a charity hospital on the edge of the capital. Her back and shoulder were wrapped in so many bandages she could barely move. The healer, an old woman with kind eyes, told her the truth gently. The burns are deep, child. They'll scar your face, your neck, your shoulder. I'm sorry. Maya touched the bandages on her cheek and felt the rough texture beneath. When they finally let her see a mirror, she understood why people looked away. The right side of her face was twisted with scar tissue. Her neck bore angry red marks that would never fully fade. Her shoulder looked like melted candle wax. She was 23 years old, and her life as she knew it was over. The return home. The village treated her differently now. Children stared. Women whispered. Men avoided her eyes. Her job at the bakery was no longer available. The owner said customers complained. They didn't want someone like that handling their food. Maya's small cottage became her prison. She ventured out only at night, hood pulled low, scarf wrapped high. The girl who once smiled easily now moved through the world like a ghost. But she kept one thing. A piece of torn blue silk she'd found clutched in her hand when she woke up. Part of the princess's dress. She'd grabbed it during the rescue without realizing. Sometimes when the pain was too much and the loneliness felt like drowning, Maya would hold that piece of silk and remember. The princess was alive. That had to mean something. The king's search. What Maya didn't know was that the Alpha King had turned his kingdom upside down looking for her. King Damon Steele was not a man who left debts unpaid. His daughter's savior had disappeared like smoke. The guards couldn't identify her. She'd been taken to a different. Heat hit her like a physical wall. The air burned going down her throat. Her eyes watered so badly she could barely see. But she kept moving one step then another toward that crying child. The carriage creaked. Metal screamed against rock. Hold on, Maya shouted. I'm coming. She reached the door just as the first bolt gave way. The entire carriage shifted. Maya grabbed the handle and pulled with everything she had. It wouldn't budge. The heat from the fire melted the metal lock. The princess's terrified face stared at her through the glass. Stand back, Maya yelled. She grabbed a rock and smashed the window. Glass shattered. She reached through, cutting her arms on the broken edges and grabbed the child. The princess was frozen with fear, unable to move. I've got you, Maya whispered. Trust me. Their eyes met. Something passed between them. A promise without words. Maya pulled the girl through the window just as the second bolt snapped. The carriage tilted violently. Maya threw herself backward, clutching the princess to her chest, and rolled away from the edge. The price of courage. They almost made it. The carriage fell, but as it went, a piece of burning wood broke free. It spun through the air like a flaming sword and struck Maya across her back and shoulder. She screamed. The pain was beyond anything she'd ever imagined, like being torn apart from the inside. But she didn't let go of the child. She curled around the princess, protecting her with her own body as flames licked at her skin. Someone was screaming. She realized it was her. Then strong hands grabbed her. Guards pulled them both away from the fire. Someone threw water on her. The world became a blur of pain and voices. Get the princess to safety. This woman needs a healer. Who is she? The day everything burned. The mountain road twisted like a serpent through the cliffs. Autumn leaves danced in the wind, painting the air with gold and crimson. It was supposed to be a peaceful journey. The Alpha King's convoy moved slowly, carrying his most precious treasure. His 7-year-old daughter, Princess Arya. Maya-chan worked in the village bakery at the foot of the mountain. She had just finished her morning deliveries when she heard it. A sound like thunder but wrong. Too sharp. Too close. She looked up and saw smoke rising from the mountain pass. Her heart stopped. The breadbasket fell from her hands. Without thinking, she ran. Her legs carried her up the steep path, lungs burning, feet slipping on loose stones. Other villagers shouted behind her, telling her to stop, to wait for the guards. But something pulled her forward, a feeling she couldn't name. When she reached the curve, the scene stole her breath. The wreckage. 3 royal carriages lay scattered like broken toys. One hung halfway off the cliff, wheels spinning uselessly in the air. Fire crawled across the silk curtains and wooden frames. Horses screamed. Guards shouted orders, trying to pull survivors from the wreckage. And then Maya heard it. A child's cry. Her eyes found the carriage dangling over the edge. Through the smoke, she saw a small face pressed against the window. A girl with dark curls and a crown that sparkled even through the flames. The princess. Someone help her. Maya screamed. But the guards were trapped on the other side of the fire. The bridge of stone between them had collapsed. They could only watch in horror as the carriage groaned, tilting further toward the drop. Maya didn't wait. She grabbed a wet cloth from a fallen supply cart, wrapped it around her face and ran straight into the flames. Into the fire.